Here we have a DR250 91 model. Blows a bit of smoke, so we're going to inspect the rings. Probably replace them. I've already started pulling it apart, as you can see. Started taking the bolts off for the rock cover. And I've aligned them like this, so I know exactly where the bolts go when I put it back together. Alright, so we've got that off. Bolts are all in their locations with varying lengths, so that way just a tip for helping you keep them where they need to be. And that is now in here. So next job is to remove the camshaft supporting the cam chain so it doesn't drop down. I have removed this plug here with a 10mm Allen key. This one here is an 8mm Allen key. You wind that until, if you can see that, there is a T in there for top dead center. You can't really see it. You can see a line and a T hopefully. Cam pulley is held on by these locking tabs. You have to fold these tabs backwards so you can undo this bolt, wind it around, do the same with the next bolt down. Okay, there's only 2 bolts that hold that on. Moves us around to the tensioner. This one's held in by 2 different bolts. One's Allen and one's a 10mm. So I like to back off the tensioner adjustment, this centre bit, to relieve spring pressure before I then back off the tensioner out of the system. So backing off the tensioner, just a matter of unwinding this and removing this spring. Here's the tensioner once removed. Okay, and that is stopped going back in by this little pawl here. It allows it to come outwards as the chain tensions, or chain adjusts and loses tension. And if you want it to go back in, you've got to push that little pawl down to get to go back in. And then that spring and bolt comes back in here, and that's the tension that holds that outwards. As you can see, I have the bolts out now. Now I'm going to try and wiggle off the cam pulley and then get the cam out. It's a bit of a fight, so I'll have to do it with both hands. Always remember to support that cam chain and don't drop it, otherwise you've got to go fishing for it. I've also taken out this tensioner bolt. Sorry, it's a guide bolt. Don't forget to undo that, otherwise you'll break your guide. So as you can see, I've separated the cam chain from the cam pulley and then it off the cam as well. And then there's these little keyways in that slot. You can see it just there. They align the cam. You don't want to drop those either. It's always, remember, always good if you can have a workshop manual to go by. It's best instructions. Always. Okay, so I've got the cam out and the gear out. I've got the chain supported by a bit of wire so it doesn't get dropped. If I have a look in here, let's get this out of the way, you'll see here like the half moon locking tab, which sort of locks everything in place and stops that cam from moving. Alright, next will be the removal of the head. So I don't lose the parts as I'm going, I've reassembled the cam. So I've got my bolts back in there, the locking plate back in there, and I'll keep that together as one unit. Time for the head to come off. We have 2 14s here, 2 14s over there, 12mm nut there, and a 12mm nut here. So I have to get all those off, and then head can come off. I will take off the 12mm nuts first because that'll be the easiest. Right, head bolts are out, the nuts are out. Okay, with the nuts, so much easier putting some lubricant on them. I use a super up engine cleaner because I have it. Make sure you also keep track of these as well, because as you can see, 2 different lengths. Alright, so the trusty board comes back into play. Head is off. All in all, doesn't look too bad for an old bike. You see I've still got this chain supported and tied up to there. Alright, I guess now pull the barrel off. Alright, so we've got some nuts here, 10mm, 10mm. May well have to undo this oil pipe. What else we got? There's some more 10mm on the other side. Oh, it looks like that was the only ones that were holding it in place. Okay, so get those 10mm off and see how we have the nuts off the barrel, and it is now ready to lift off. We have the barrel off. I don't know if you can see that. Some markings inside this barrel, so we'll have to assess that a bit further, see what's going on. There's the piston, balance that up there. Here's the piston, which shouldn't look too bad. A little bit of scoring on it. That's just about normal. Okay. Right, let's see what we've got here. You guys can see that. 72.77. Check the top. Make sure the top's the same. 72.36. Let's have a look in here. What's that? 72.68. Yeah, I think we're right. Yeah, 72.75 on the skirt. So we'll find out what size piston that is. I think that's a standard piston, and we'll go from there. See if we can source some fresh rings, maybe a piston.